Yes, I hope you can see me and also hear me clearly. The topic for this discussion today is, let me just bring it up. The topic is the war between America, Israel versus Iran. What is the Nigeria's current position? What is the Nigeria's position in the current global geopolitics of the world? And this topic has become very necessary because Nigeria happens to be the giant of Africa, so to say, even though as at today we are not actually living up to the expectations that is reposed on us as the giant of Africa. As a matter of fact, right now we are not even a giant of anywhere. Sorry, let me see if I can put this camera in the landscape position. Oh, apologies for that. I guess I didn't initiate that from the beginning. So today we are talking about the position of Nigeria in the current geopolitics of the world vis-a-vis what is currently going on in Iran. For most people who may not know, it is all, love lost between Iran and America. And most people may not know that before 1979, Iran used to be a very top ally of America. And during the Second World War, before the state of Israel gained independence and recognition as it is today, Iran was also one of those allies, of the people of Israel. Iran gave some coverage, some succor and support to the Jews who were scattered around the world, before they got the independence and the status that made them a nation as it is today. But then, what then happened that as of today, people who were born, within the 1980s to this time, all they may know or they may understand is that Iran has been an arch enemy of the people of Israel, to an extent that during the Islamic regime of Ayatollah, the late Ali Khamenei, the former Ayatollah of Iran, you always have those who are opposed to Israel, and they always had as their mantra death to Israel. They always chant death to Israel, death to America. But these were the countries and nations that were once hand in gloves in everything that they did. they supported each other, they were good allies and all of that, because of course, Iran as it is today is one of the oldest nations in the world. It's one of those nations that actually featured prominently in the Bible. If you're a Christian, you must have heard about the Persians. A lot of times, in the Bible, in the Old Testament, I think it's also mentioned a few times, also in the New Testament. So how did, the love got lost between these two very wonderful and powerful nations, to the point right now that, they are up in arms, and, one segment is doing everything, to annihilate the other and all of that. So we need to take a little look into that. And then we also need to look at the global impact, of this crisis that is going on right now in Iran on the world. Of course, you know that the Gulf region controls a large amount of the oil supply, the global oil supply. And if you have been following up, you must have also heard one name that has been coming up prominently, the Strait of Hormuz, which controls, the haulage of about 20% of the oil and gas within the Gulf Stream and within the Asian region. So we're definitely going to look at that, because of course, that the war that is going on right now is definitely going to have a far-reaching effect on the global oil economy, which Nigeria plays a prominent role, in that economy, because right here, in Africa, Nigeria happens to be one of the highest, if not the highest, oil producer. And of course, right now, there's going to be a strain and a high demand on the Nigerian oil. And it might also interest you to know that for some time, Nigeria had not been able to meet up their OPEC quota, although this current administration had done a lot to try to rev up, production for Nigeria to be able to meet, the OPEC quota, which we've not actually been able to do quite consistently. We're also going to look at the strategic positioning of Nigeria in the geopolitics and the significance of Nigeria within the West African bloc, and the role that Nigeria was meant to play, and the role that we are playing currently, if we are actually, playing any role. Because of course, there's no gainsaying that Nigeria has not been playing the role she was meant to play within the African Union and even within the West African sub-region. Because of course, right now we have what is called the Sahel states, that is a major breakaway, from the ECOWAS bloc, because of certain discrepancies that emanated from the military takeover of some of the West African countries, which was not actually in tune, with a lot of the laid down rules and objectives of the West African states. And of course, that actually caused some friction. And some members of the ECOWAS, right now as we stand, had actually threatened to leave the West African bloc, and they had gone to form what they call the Sahelian states. So we're also going to look at that, and also the security implication of what is currently going on, because the war between Iran, America, and Israel will definitely have a fallout. Remember that over the years, we've been having crises in Africa here, especially within the West African region here, as a result of the crisis that happened, in Libya, the crisis that happened in Sudan, and some of the African, countries where the Islamic states, West Africa, had tried to form a terror network, between Niger, Mali, Nigeria, Togo, and some of the countries within the West African region here. So, of course, a lot of persons, are also of the opinion that this crisis that is happening today in Iran is definitely going to have a ripple effect and a fallout, on the West African bloc and Africa in general. So we're also going to look at that and how is Nigeria preparing, how is Africa positioning itself, because if you remember, a lot of the European states had actually, alerted and started prepping up their security architecture for whatever fallout might come out of this war that is going on between Iran, and Israel and America right now. And it will also be, wise if Nigeria could do the same, because failure to do that will mean that Nigeria is not taking cognizance of the trend and what is currently, happening globally. Most importantly, we are also going to look at the diplomatic implication of what is going on, because, of course, Nigeria has a very strong tie with America, Israel, and also Iran. And of recent, we saw some Nigerian Muslims within the north, coming out to protest against the US, with regards to the war that is ongoing in Iran. And of a truth, the world has become a global village today. There's nothing that you do here, in Nigeria or wherever you are, no matter how remotely located you might be, that does not get the global attention. So, all of these actions, of course, will have implications on the diplomatic front. Here in Nigeria, we have the Israeli mission, we have the American embassy, we have their envoys who are here, who understands what is going on, who know what is going on. So, of course, when the issue or when a war like the one that is going on right now is going on, and then you now have people, citizens who go and protest in support of one party against the other, of course, to a large extent, it will have, some consequences, because somehow some of the parties involved in this crisis may not be happy. For instance, Northerners coming out to throw support for Iran, protesting on the street against, Israel and America. So we're also going to look at the diplomatic implication of this war, because, of course, right now we've been able to establish that there is a fallout, from this war that will go round. Of course, right now, one of the easiest or the quickest fallout is the fact that there has been a serious, disruption in the oil economy, the oil market right now. The cost, of crude has actually gone up. Even here in Nigeria, where we mine and, produce and process our oil right now, the cost of fuel has actually gone up, which is a result of the fallout of that, war that is going on in Iran. But then again, how far will this fallout affect Nigeria? Of course, right now, people have not started noticing how biting it is, or how, biting or how hard it's going to be, because this war is a war that people expected not to be a protracted one, not to be a very prolonged one, but of course, in war, you cannot, you can predict the starting of a war, but you cannot predict the end. You don't know how far it's going to stretch. Most people had even, said that this is going to be the next world war, because if you look at what Iran did the first 3 days of this war. They tried to escalate the war across the entire Gulf region just to attract, other people to join into the war. And if the likes of China and Russia had not been very cautious and had jumped into this war, of course, the prediction of some people would have come true. This would have, degenerated to a point where a possibility of a third world war, would have happened. So that's that. And then, lastly, we are also going to, talk about the future scenario, or what can possibly, come out of this whole issue, that is happening right now. We'll try our best to prognose into it, put out some hypothetical positions just to get us informed and just to prepare our minds, towards the possibility, of what is going on or what could be. So this is going to be a program that will be coming up every day from 12 noon Nigerian time, to whenever we can end, for the day. So if you've not subscribed to this channel, you better do so that you always be getting the notification, whenever we are going live and when we're starting. So, but today we are going to, focus mainly on what is Nigeria's place, in the current geopolitics of the world. Right now, today, as we speak, Nigeria is one of the major players, or Nigeria was supposed to be one of the major players, in the global oil sector. As at 2014-2015, our OPEC quota used to be around 2.1 million barrels per day. But of course, the incident, so like I was saying before the power got interrupted, right now as we speak, Nigeria plays a very important role in the OPEC organization of petroleum exporters countries. And as we speak right now, Nigeria is supposed to be one of the major players. And today, Nigeria was supposed to be a country where decisions, or a country that controls a significant decision of what happens in Africa. But as we speak today, has Nigeria been able to play the role that was expected of her as the hypothetical giant of Africa, like we had, always been regarded? As we speak today, Nigeria has been battling with the issues of insecurity within her own territory. As we speak right now, we have the menace of insurgents, which most had accused Iran, who had been notoriously, alleged to be the terror sponsor of the world, to have a significant role in the issue of terrorism that is happening here in Nigeria. But Iran, like we all know, as an Islamic state, also have, a serious ties with at least a section of Nigeria, the northern part of Nigeria, who practices Islam. But in all of the issues of security, insecurity, insurgency, terrorism, all these things that has happened here, what role has Iran played? What support have they given? We also have information that a lot of the arms that had been found with the insurgents that has been terrorizing Nigeria, weapons and arms, that comes from Iran. Most people had said that the Iran regime had been sponsoring terrorism here in Nigeria. Although these things are allegations, although these things are hypotheses, but what significant role had the government of Nigeria, what significant move had the government of Nigeria made to either, bring that allegation to an end, or actually call the attention of Iran to debunk it, to show that they don't have a hand in what is going on? I don't think Nigeria had done anything very significant in that regard. So it became very debilitating when we saw, people from northern Nigeria, a region that has suffered the most from the issue of insecurity that is linked to Iran, come out to to protest in support of what is going on right now. And away from that, on the diplomatic front, when you have a crisis that is between three of your allies that has significant, influence or relationship with you, wisdom also demands that you approach the situation strategically. You don't jump up to go and take sides. Although I know that the federal government did not come out openly to make a categorical statement supporting, either side. But of course, Nigeria as a country is a country because of the composition of its people. The people of Nigeria are the people that are what makes up Nigeria. And when people within Nigeria goes to take certain action, of course, it will be said, that action will be said to have been taken by Nigeria. So as at today, it is seen that Nigerians are supporting the people of Iran, as opposed to playing the neutral role that they were supposed to play. We saw the Iranian ambassador, the Israeli ambassador, on a program today, and of course, he was trying to, give a historical background of how the relationship between Iran and Israel deteriorated to this point. And according to him, said for 49 years, Iran has been doing everything to annihilate Israel. Although that's the narrative of the people of Israel. If you also give an opportunity to the people of Iran, they will also have their own narrative to give. But in a case like this, we, the people of Nigeria, are supposed to sit back and then come up with our own position, which should be in line with our own interest. As of today, for those who may not know, Nigeria does a significant amount of trade with the state of Israel. A whole lot of things, a whole lot of services. Even before this administration, the previous ones even had a security partnership with Israel, where Israeli, military, took some of our Nigerian security personnel and gave them certain training on how to combat the issue, of our internal security here. And when you have such a partnership with a country like that, it is only wise that you diligently calibrate your dealings in such a way that does not, cause any diplomatic tension or strife between both countries. Because today, the truth is that Nigeria is not up there technologically. We depend a lot on these nations, to get by in a whole lot of area. So it is only important that we use wisdom when we deal, with issues that concern, people of such magnitude. But so far, we have not done so. There is also something that happened 2 days ago. There was a naval display or joint training that happened, which the people of South Africa, participated in. Of course, that event is an event that has been organized, that has been in place, that has been ongoing even before the war, and it seemed to be an annual security event between the two, or multilateral arrangements between many countries, which Iran happens to be a part of. And there was something that happened. The state of Israel actually released a statement condemning that partnership, condemning the attendance of South Africa, in partnership with Iran. Although the tension between South Africa and Israel did not just start today, Israel and South Africa had not been having a very smooth relationship in recent times, and it got worse when South Africa went on that expedition with Iran, even while the war had broken out, and Israel didn't find that funny. They went and released, a statement to that regard. But then, if you look at the status of South Africa and Nigeria, because the topic is about the role of Nigeria in the current geopolitics, South Africa tend to be in a more better position than Nigeria in every ramification. As we speak today, when it comes to leadership, governance, South Africa, in a way, had been able to figure out its leadership in such a way that if they continue on the trajectory or on the path where they are, there is a guarantee that South Africa on its own can actually, bring prosperity to the people, to its citizens, without, heavily depending on aids and support from other foreign nations and other global powers. But that cannot be the same. That can't be said about Nigeria. As of today, Nigeria is still grappling with figuring out her leadership, and a lot of the things that should make us, an independent, truly independent nation still depends on, our partnership with a lot of these nations who are currently, at war with each other. Therefore, it becomes very imperative and very important for us to tread with caution. And also, as of today, if considerations are to be given, or if a solution is sorted from an African state, will they call Nigeria? Will Nigeria be the country or the nation that they will call upon in terms of this conflict that is going on? I know that when it comes to the Gulf states and the Middle East, Egypt plays a very significant role in the security discourse in the Middle East. In fact, here in Africa too, Egypt has a very strong military because, of course, one of the things that will make you play a significant role or be respected in the community of states in the world today is the strength of your military. And this is a thing that Nigeria has not quite gotten right. We have all it takes. In fact, we have some decent annual budget that goes into our security architecture in this country. But for some reason, those funds or those resources had not been properly utilized to a level that helps, our security to be up there where it can be reckoned with. And some of the countries, that we call smaller countries, smaller nations, had done marvelously well. If we speak today, if we're talking about the strong countries with the strongest military today in Africa, you'll be talking about people like Egypt, you'll be talking about people like Algeria, even before you consider, a country like Nigeria that is supposed to be the giant of Africa. And these are, the challenges that Nigeria has been facing. And it is also the reason why Nigeria is not well respected or considered when it comes to, the issues about global politics as it relates to the security, of the region. So the question today is, what role is Nigeria playing? What is the position of Nigeria in the global geopolitics? Are we just spectators, or are we playing any significant role, if we are playing any role at all? And what can we do to take our rightful place in the United Nations Security Council? Nigeria has been struggling for years, to get a seat at the council. But you can see that despite the size of our country, despite the size of our economy, it has been very difficult for us to get a permanent seat at the United Nations Security Council. And it is all because of how, lackadaisical our leadership has been, how weak and how unorganized our armed forces have been, because these are some of the things that must be considered, before you be invited to the table. As we speak today, just here in our own country and our next door neighbors here, we've been having insurgency and issues of insecurity, and Nigeria had not been able to deal decisively with that crisis. So how are we going to be able to provide, support or make contribution on the global stage? And one other thing that is very important is that if your security, the respect that is given to you in the global politics or geopolitical scene, it's commensurate to the strength of your military. If you don't have a military that has proper structure, who is battle tested, who has equipment, technological advancement, of course, it will be difficult, for you to be reckoned with. As we speak today, almost all of our military hardware are purchased from other countries, because Nigeria is now investing in research and development in that area. So the question remains, what is the place of Nigeria in the current geopolitics? Are we just spectators, or are we working hard to be at the table? On Christmas Day of 2025, President Donald Trump of America delivered a Christmas package to Nigeria. But of course, it was not in financial aid. It was not, in technological bilateral relationship or stuff. It was the bombing of some parts of Nigeria, because Nigeria has failed to do what she was supposed to do. It becomes worse when your own internal security you cannot handle, to an extent that you now need the support and intervention of foreign countries to come and solve your own internal security crisis. That's the position where we are. But the question is, what are we doing? Yes, we've identified the fact that a lot has not gone well. We've also identified the fact that a lot needs to be done. But the question is, are we doing what we are supposed to do as a country? As we speak today, what investment are we investing in our armed forces, in our security and military architecture? During the last administration, the Buhari's administration, Nigeria bought some Tucano fighter jets from America. And despite paying in full, there were some restrictions and conditions that were attached to those military hardware that was bought from America. And the reason is because the technology was not our own. In fact, those Tucano jets are something that has been phased out in the American military. In fact, they only use it for training of their new entrants into the military system in America. But that was the best that Nigeria could afford or Nigeria could go for. And even at that, there were some restrictions too, not allowing us to operate or to use those aircraft for the purpose for which they were purchased. There were a lot of encumbrances and a lot of hurdles that was kept in place until, President Donald Trump recently lifted those embargo and allowed Nigeria to use those Tucano jets, which I don't also know if they are actually using it in full capacity right now. So, this is the position of Nigeria. But I'd like to hear from you guys. What do you think our position is currently in the global geopolitics? Do you think Nigeria is significant? Do you think Nigeria is important? If Nigeria is not important, why are we not important despite being the giant of Africa? And if Nigeria is important, what role are we playing? How are we important in the current global geopolitics? What is the role that Nigeria is playing to help the global community with regards to what is going on? Right now, today, you can see that America is attacking Iran from the various military bases that they have, across the Middle East. America, as we speak, has military settlement across the world. Here in West Africa, we have, America has a military base in Ghana. I think they also have somewhere in Niger, if I'm not mistaken, or Benin Republic, somewhere around our neighbors here. And then very recently, from the agreement and arrangement that Nigeria had with America with regards to the insecurity and insurgency in the north, I think a temporary settlement has also kicked off, in the northeast of Nigeria. So, are all of these things the much that Nigeria could do? And if we are not doing as much, what then should we start doing? Right now, as we speak, even the basic things that should make us a stable country, we've not been able to fix, like our electoral system. We've not been able to fix that. Our institutions, are still, languishing in mismanagement. Education is not what it's supposed to be. Of course, a wise man once said that if you want to know a serious country, a country that is serious about development, look at the educational system, look at their health sector, and if you put these two variables together, you can tell a country that is serious about advancing his or her development. But unfortunately today, as we speak, all of this sector, we can agree that it is nothing to write home about currently. So, are we really serious about development? I would like to hear your thoughts. This is an interaction that will be going on. It's not going to end today, of course. Today we started quite late because we're trying out to see if we can actually use this channel to do a live stream. From tomorrow is going to be much earlier, from 12 noon. We're going to be here discussing, and as time goes on, we're also going to employ some additional gadgets that will allow us to bring people on the live so that we can actually have a discussion. For now it's actually a monologue, except maybe you send in your message and all of that. But with time, this discussion, will broaden up to a point where we bring in people to come, people, experts who know more than we do, to come in, and give their insight on what is happening and the role Nigeria can play and what Nigeria can actually take away, the lessons that we can learn. Because of course a lot has happened. Right now, one of the lessons that we have seen is that when it comes to the global politics, you either be on the side of America, or you'll be prepared for the worst. That is what this has shown. If you see that even Russia, who had been a long-time ally of Iran, who Iran had been, making a lot of dealings with, is very cautious, to dive into this issue because of how important they know America is and how fierce America can come down on you. China too, has been very passive about, giving support to Iran because they don't want the wrath, of America. So you can see that America plays a very important role, and there's no gainsaying that as of today they are the world power. So how can Nigeria begin to adjust? How can Nigeria begin to calibrate, her support, and her partnership with America in a way that helps Nigeria, to advance both technologically and developmentally and in all round? These are some of the things that we need to begin to look into. What are those areas that Nigeria needs to begin to develop from now to such a level that will now make us, to be important, in the global scheme of things? If you look, we have a lot of smaller countries that Nigeria are richer than, that are very, very important, in the global politics and the geopolitics of the world. But it all depends on how they structure their leadership, how, they place their scale of preference, the area that is important to the world, how they have invested in those areas and all of that. And like I said from the beginning, if you don't invest in your security architecture, if you don't grow your armed forces, to become, an armed force that can stand or withstand or, actually be significant within your region, nobody takes you seriously in the world. As we speak today, yeah, economic advantages are important, but I think your military capability is even more important today, because right now, if we take example from the North Korea is not doing too fantastically in terms of economic advances and all of that. But one fact is that nobody can toy with North Korea because they have invested heavily and demonstrated their military capabilities. So in everything that we will do as a nation, or in everything that we do as a nation, one very important sector that we must invest in is our military sector. We must advance our military capabilities. We must advance our military architecture. We must invest in research and development of some of our military hardwares. Because of course you cannot depend, you can't be more better or more significant than the people from where you get, everything with which you depend. And that's the challenge that Nigeria has been having. Nigeria has placed so much, effort, on illicit politics that has not actually benefited the people of Nigeria. Economically, we've not done well. Educationally, militarily, we've also not done well. And like we can see today, the strength of your military controls how people will relate with you or people will deal with you. Yes, you can have natural resources and all of those things, but if you don't use the benefit or the proceeds from your natural resources to invest in your military, to advance your military, people will continue to take you for a ride. And a typical example of that is the Democratic Republic of Congo. Congo can be said to be the richest nation on earth when it comes to deposit of natural resources and all of that. But as we speak today, that country is in ruin, not because they don't have the natural resources to make them better, but because they've not been able to coordinate and organize the natural resources and the resources that they have, into tangible progress. And Nigeria is equally suffering the same. So the question or the submission is that Nigeria has a lot to do if she will be recognized in the global scheme of things. Yes, right now we've not been able to identify some of the significance of Nigeria. I know that Nigeria is not completely useless in the global scheme of things because, of course, right now as it stands, a lot of the countries are going to be scampering for the Nigerian oil because, of course, right now there has been a major disruption within the Middle East. So some of the economic world powers like China, like India, they are going to be looking for alternative means to augment their energy need. And of course, Nigeria is definitely going to be one of the places that they are going to look forward to. So Nigeria is not completely useless. Right now, what I think that we should do is to take advantage of this situation that has happened, if at all we will, because of course, the crude oil benchmark in the budget for this year was about 60.85 USD. Right now, as at yesterday, oil was selling for $85 per barrel. It could even be more than that if this war continues. And right now, we're going to be having some budget surplus and all of that. But will Nigeria be able to channel the surplus into something productive? Would the leaders and the politicians not also loot away all of those things and continue to set us back like we have been all through the years? These are some of the things that we need to look into. And the world today understands that these are some of the things that are plaguing Nigeria. That's the reason why in the global scheme of things, when it matters, Nigeria is not always considered. Rather, you see countries like South Africa being considered first before Nigeria. You see countries like Egypt being considered first before Nigeria, Kenya, and even Algeria, Morocco, and all of those countries are highly respected, not because they are richer, not because they are too powerful, but because they have been able to organize their leadership in such a way that points towards a direction. And the global community sees them as people who are serious-minded and people who could be potential, world power tomorrow if given the chance or if they have the opportunity. So, these and more are what we are definitely going to be talking about in the coming days. I thank you for all the people that joined the live today. Tomorrow we'll do it again from 12 noon. And if you've not subscribed to this channel, please do so, as we're definitely going to be discussing, as far as this war is going on. And we're going to be discussing even beyond this particular war that is going on in Iran today. Of course, a whole lot, is going on, the insurgency in Nigeria. How has the partnership of the American government helped? We still have issues of, kidnap, everyday insurgency, invasion, and killings in the north, in the southwest, and all of these places within our country. So the crisis has not abated, irrespective of the fact that it's been months since the bilateral agreement or partnership between Nigeria and America was entered into. So these are some of the things that we're definitely going to be looking at, going to be talking about subsequently. And I just pray that God will give me the enablement to have the gadgets that I need so that we can throw this discussion open, so that people can join, participate, and also put out their understanding and knowledge about, what is going on, so that we can better educate ourselves. Probably, our voice can go out and get to the people that matter, so that they can, begin to look at some of the things that we're saying here, and to also see if they can implement some of it. So by and large, it's going to be a continuous program. So I invite you to come on tomorrow as well. And I thank each and every one of you who stopped by here, today. Thank you so much. We're going to end at this point. Of course, Nigeria happened. You can see how I'm sweating. When, power was interrupted, I had to use, a rechargeable light. And finally, it's gone. Thank you so much, and God bless you.